Hello, I am Mike of Near Enough Dice, and this is the Kerbal Space Program. And I've got myself a new mod. This is Infernal Robotics that I'm currently playing with. This is currently the core system. There are some expansions that add new parts, but Infernal Robotics is for making things that move. Normally when you create your spacecraft, nothing actually moves. You can detach things, but you can't move things. I think the only exception, really the only thing that moves are control surfaces. So if you got tail fins, they'll move a bit. But Infernal Robotics is a bunch of parts, and when you install the mod, rather nicely, it gives you a separate tab with all the robot bits in. Technically, they also show up like in utility. So I've got this adjustable rail and these rotatrons. They show up in utility, but there's a separate bit just for the robot parts. And when you add a new part, it gets organized into basically there's an icon down here with the little robot arm on it, and that's the server configuration where you can change where things move and stuff like that. And they get organized into groups, which we'll get to in a second. And there's all sorts of bits. Like I've got a door hinge, and I can open the door hinge like this. Go, ooh, look at the door hinge, and I can close it. And I can also just click on here and reset it. I can create presets. So I'll create a preset of let's say 90 degrees. Whoop, that was 900 degrees, which is not what I wanted. Let's go back into that. 90. I can also decide which is the default, so I can go, that's default. Oh, that's interesting. I can say move to the. So actually, let's add a 180 preset. But 0 is the default. So I can decide. I might want to start it at a particular thing. Also, I may want to test it and see what it looks like. So just close that. So now my door hinge, I can test it in here at various presets, which is neat. So door hinges move like that. These door hinges. There's two of them, one that starts closed and one that starts open, and they seem to be the same thing. They just start slightly differently. So it'll open up like that. It seems this will only go up to 180 degrees. Oops. And if I reset it, it won't go below 0. So there you go. I've attached that. This is just a structural panel. This is one of the stock bits, so ignore that. I just put that as a place to attach things to. What else have we got? We've got a cylinder, and that extends like that. Where's it? How far does that go? Goes to 1.3. So I could set up presets for that if I wanted to. As you can see, so that could be used like for a landing leg or something. I mean, one thing I could use it for is if I was making, my moon base. One of my problems is trying to get things lined up, so I could use something like that to kind of line things up. Let's reset that. What else you got? You got another type of hinge down here. I'll bring that out like this. Which has got, it's got a solid bit which attaches, and then that bit bends back and forwards. So that goes from 0 to 180. Like that. There you go. Reset that. I think this one, the point behind this type of hinge here. That starts at 0 by default. That starts at 0, and that goes from minus 90 to plus 90, as opposed to 0 to 180. So that's going to depend on that's going to depend on how you want to operate it. I mean, especially if I start operating it with KOS. Do I want to go from 0 to 180, or do I want to go from minus 90 to plus 90? So what else? What else? What else? So there's the hinge. That does that. Telescopic piston. Now the difference between this and the hydraulic cylinder, which is not really obvious here, the way I've set things up. The telescopic, the hydraulic cylinder is meant to be outside, so this attaches to that plate there. But if you can, this bit here, it attaches inside. So if I take away the hinge, right? What you're not supposed to see that bit. That's meant to be inside the rest of the craft. It's just that the way I've built this, it doesn't have that. It doesn't have a rest of the craft to be in. So only that tiny bit's meant to poke outside, and it extends in the same way as the hydraulic thing does. It just starts off much smaller, and it goes to 1.8. So again, you could use that to, you know, make some kind of landing gear, or you could like move the bits of the craft apart, or bring things in if that's what you wanted to do. So for example, again, if I was doing a landing gear, I could actually have the landing gear tied up against the side of the craft, but because I want a wider base, so when it's going to be nice and compact when it's being launched, but when it lands I want a nice wide base, so I might make something using those pistons to expand that out. Rotatron goes round and round and round and round and round. That's pretty obvious what that does, why you'd want that. You can also just type in values into here. So if I wanted that to be at 45 degrees, boom, it does 45 degrees. Adjustable rail, that's this bit that goes up and down, mostly down. Starts off up and then you kind of make it go down. There's a neat video from Dan Barata, one of the KOS folk, where he made that, including another site with a laser sight, another mod with a laser sight, which will automatically raise and lower the landing legs to adjust to the slope. So instead of just going, you know, it's got a slope and go, thump, it'll actually kind of, you know, adjust the legs to the slope. And I really like that idea. I kind of like the idea of making that. So let's reset that. And the gantry rail, this goes back and forward. So basically you would put this rail, you attach that rail to things, and now you can move things backwards and forwards. Like that. There is a variant gantry rail, which I think does the opposite, where you would attach there, and then this whole rail goes back and forth effectively. Yeah, so the whole rail moves backwards and forwards if I do that. No, he doesn't seem to go that far. That's interesting. Seems to stop there for some reason. That's weird. Yeah. You can right-click on these things and get various bits of information. Oh, okay. Its max and min are a bit weird. That's why. So I could change its max, for example. And so now it'll go off that way. Although interestingly, it's not actually attached the way I would think it would be. I think I need to attach it. Hang on, let's zero out the. And that's slightly weird because it's the bit that's attached is wandering off that way. I'm not quite sure that's how it's meant to work. I really need some instructions to go with this. But I can also, yeah, so those are the various bits. There's also a couple of bits which I don't quite understand, like a docking washer. I'm not quite sure what that's for. You can rotate it, and actually you can see it's down as a rotatron. but I don't know what you want that for. Do you put a docking port on that and make it a washer, so you can rotate bits separately and then dock them? I don't know what actually that's for. There's a thing in one of the instructions says basically you don't want to attach docking ports to Infernal Robotics parts. It goes wrong apparently, but I don't know what that's about. So I don't know what docking washers is for. You also get free ones. Now this is a docking. This is a free one, and it does, as you can see, it doesn't show up in my new group thing, so I can't control it. So it just rotates. So I don't know why you want that. Gantry rails, adjustable rails. I think that's all the bits that come with the stock. Oh, there's one. There's one more, which is this bit. Now this is allegedly for vectored thrust craft. So I would put fuel on this thing that I'm making here, and I'd chuck an engine on the bottom, like a basic jet engine, right? And so now this becomes potentially, anyway, a vectored thrust thing, all right? And I put everything in a group, as you can see, which means I can do things like make all the things work at once, which should look ridiculous. There you go. Whee. So that's everything working at once, and the rotor just keeps on going. You can make different groups. So I'm just going to put all the rototrons. New rototrons. So I'm going to chuck all the rotatey things into that group. So I'll just reset everything. So now things won't rotate. They will just hinge and lengthen and stuff. And I can rotate things separately. And these groups also, these same groups will show up when and if I launch it. So I'm just going to launch this ridiculous craft. It's not really a craft, it's obviously a test bed. Wait for it to come up. That night, never mind. As you can see, it's in the same place that I left it before. So everything that was deployed before is now deployed. So I can bring this up, the servo controls. And to start off with, it's just within the groups. So I can now tell, if I hold this, everything should try and get back to center. The difference being that unlike in the spaceplane hangar, I can't just reset it automatically. It's got to actually go through the motions of putting everything back. Right, so everything's got to actually move to the center. And yeah, the physics comes into it. How heavy things are comes into it, which it didn't before. In the VAB or the spaceplane hangar, everything just can go where it wants. There's nothing which I've forgotten to do, which is to put any electricity on this. So I suspect part of the problem, why it was acting in such a weird way. Yeah. Where is it getting energy from? This is generating energy from somewhere. So is everything centered now? You can see that everything loses. Yeah, it all costs power. Costs a lot of power. Interestingly, not everything stops when I've run out of power. Where is it getting its power? Oh, it's getting its power. I know it's getting its power because it's attached to this. that generates power. Right, so essentially I'm connected to the mains through this thing. That's where that's coming from. So, yeah, I just lose energy right away. So anyway, you can see how that works. I can also edit the groups, so I can move if I want the hinge to be further up for some reason. If I want the hinge to be up in the group thing, I can do that. I would do that because I might want to now move things individually. So I can open up that group and now I can move things individually if I want. No real point opening up the rototron as a separate thing because it's only got one thing in it. Whee! Trying to remember which one I had presets on. Did I have presets on? It was the hinge, wasn't it? There's the hinge. So I can go into preset mode, and I can now swap between presets if I can remember which one's got presets. New door hinge. That's got. There we go. That's the one that's got presets. So that'll swap between presets. And again, when I was doing this in the actual editor, this would just happen immediately. It would just swap to it. But I've got to actually move it in here, and that costs energy. So I should really put energy into this. If I was actually going to make this, I would actually like put generators on and stuff like that. So you can also reverse things. So if I just stack, right, this is now just going to move, but I can reverse it, and so basically with the same impulse it'll go the opposite way. I would want to do that, and I'll show you why actually. I'm going to force stop, and we will just go back into the spaceplane hangar, because I attempted to make a vectored thrust thing. Right, so this is all a silly thing. I don't really want this anymore, so I'm just going to load up. Where are we? Vector thrust prototype. All right, so it should be set up so that if I press forward, everything goes like that. If I press backwards, everything goes like that. Okay, and to do that, I've reversed my rear left and my front left. So my rights and my lefts go the opposite way. So so when I hit everything and say just forward, everything go forward, the rights and lefts are reversed, so they end up pointing the same way. Must be said, however, that there does appear to be some kind of problem. Maybe it's a bug, maybe it's something I don't understand about how it works. But it does not work the same way that I think it does. It doesn't work the same way as in the VAB, I have noticed. So here's my vector thrust prototype. If I try and move everything forward, you notice that they don't actually go the right way. Now fortunately I can just open it up, and which way do I want? So rear right's going the right way, rear left is going the wrong way, so I want to toggle that. Front right is going the wrong way, and so is. No, I think I had it right before. Yeah. So okay, now I've got it. So there you go. I had to toggle. So now my fronts are inverted, and my back. So I had to change that. So that's interesting. I don't know why that would work that way. So now, in theory, very much in theory, I also haven't got my staging set up right because I'm an idiot. So move that gantry into a separate stage. Then we'll move the gantry up a bit. So if I stage, whoop, and where's my thrust to weight ratio? There we go. Get my thrust to weight ratio at slightly above 1. Set my... Yeah. It's gone wrong. It's gone wrong already. Right, forget that. Now, unfortunately, I have to redo what I just did. What I should have kept I should have put my SAS on immediately. So I'm just going to do that now. Open that up. Open that up, and if I remember correctly, I have to do it that way. Yep. And I need to do this. Need to put this into a separate group, and then put that up there. Turn off the throttle. Stage. Get my thrust to weight ratio up a bit. Using jet engines is nice because I get a lot of fuel efficiency out of it, but it takes a while for the engines to spool up, so I don't get that instant increase in thrust that I get out of normal rockets, which technically speaking is something that shouldn't actually happen. It's not something that happens in the real world with real rocket engines. Come on. Just want to get my thrust to weight ratio above. There we go. Didn't seem to be paying attention to the throttle there. I wasn't sure what was going on. And with the SAS saying point to the horizon, let's go up one more. It's not quite working. Well, it's going backwards a bit is the problem. It's not staying absolutely level the way I'd want it to. But let's move. So I can now start thrusting forwards. And this is where I definitely want KOS involvement to keep, to say, keep everything level, keep the amount of thrust exactly what I need in order to stay, vertical as opposed, stay in one place as opposed to going up or going down, and not crashing the ground like that. But you can see the basics. You can see how the basics would have worked. And now that it's gone wrong, I can just go for a walk. I can do the walk of shame, and I can just walk home. Anyway, so that's the Infernal Robotics mod. I'm going to have to do a lot of experimentation to work out how this works and what I can do with it, and under what circumstances these groups don't function the way I think. I mean, that didn't work the way I thought it should. and I don't know whether I'm going to have to check to see whether that's the rotors in general or how I attached it or any number of things. And I probably want to use KOS for a lot of this, to do thrust balancing and stuff like that. But mainly I think the main thing I want to do with this is rotors and skycranes that can fold out, because you want to send them to where they're going, nice and compact, when they're actually on the rocket that's going to send them out. But then having the arms kind of fold out with maybe wheels on the side, or if it's a sky crane, then that's where the engines are. They fold out in a nice, lovely way, meaning that I can use a much slimmer rocket profile to get the thing into orbit. That seems like a fun thing to do. So that's my experimentation thus far with Infernal Robotics mod. Yeah, do please hit like and subscribe if you've been if this has been fun to watch. Like and subscribe and all that. Find Neil F. Dyche at neilfdyche.com, and you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. And until next time, experiment with robots and reach the stars.